So out of the four things, chemistry, physics, mathematics, and thermodynamics, which one is your favorite?
So nice of you.
And now it's thermodynamics.
That's your favorite?
because thermodynamics is both inductive and conductive.
Nice. What does that mean?
I have gone into thermodynamics because it has the two themes. The main requirement about thermodynamics is that it is inductive as well as conductive.
What do you mean by those words? Inductive and conductive.
But now bio is something. Bio.
No, what do you mean by conductive? Thermodynamics is conductive.
Conductive is conclusive.
Conclusive.
Inductive is drawing conclusions based on examples, similarities, allegories.
Okay. All right, everybody, we've finally made it to chapter 2. We've been here for 3 days now. We came on Sunday. We had a meet and greet. We got to know each other. Mirza, myself, Mirza's family ate wonderful food. Mirza's wife cooks, or your granddaughter, she cooks. And then we got to do equipment check. And then the second day was Monday, and we did introduced Mirza Beg, his background, how he became to the conclusions in his book, and now we're at chapter 2. So we're making progress. So let's see what chapter 2, solutions and society. So down here he says, the major assumption brought forward so far is that individuals and societies can be considered as complex systems characterized by properties such as those of gases, liquids, and we could describe these by properties of solutions. So down here we have a good quote. An individual in society is like a drop in a glass of water or a molecule in a drop. A molecule cannot be identified from the other, yet there are scores of interacting forces on each other for each molecule. In this case, the smallest particle of water, which is incapable of independent existence without these forces. So he says social forces, an individual person like the water molecule cannot exist on its own, but once together it's in a bound society, and there's forces that hold the society together. And these forces are both attractive and down here he says water is therefore a sociable or associated liquid, a case analogous with the social constraints on an individual which demand that he should be part of a society. So one point that comes to mind here in this quote, where you say that it's very difficult to measure thermodynamic properties when you have, say, Karachi is the 6th largest city in the world. So one thing that Goethe did is, it's called the island model. You find a theoretical system where, say if you have one person on a deserted island, then there's no social forces interacting on them. But the properties of thermodynamics still apply to that one person on the island, or one molecule in a system. So I'll just show you quickly what this one looks like. See what your opinion. So here we have, this is called the island model, and we have a 3-person system, A, B, and C. So the boundary of the island is this, the water here and the water here, and you can. This is a simplified model where you can get better thermodynamic variables. So in this case, with your social forces, but it's only between 3 molecules. And then we get to Goethe. This is Goethe's model. This is pictures from his book. The system is the estate. That's Edward is B, and G is the gardener, and the boundary is the fence of the estate. So this is the system boundary of the estate, and this is the retort, he says, chemical retort. And then John Christie in 1994, he came up with the idea that in his survey of thermodynamical ideas, he spoke about what he called an island model. So down here in my book I gave you, I speak about an island model too as a hypothetical deserted island on which 2 people can exist. And you can measure the internal energy, the And then, so the picture of the island model is here, where you can measure, see all the different thermodynamic properties. So this is modern human chemical thermodynamics. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a 9 molecule system. This is the boundary of the system. So we have heat of interaction here, partial differential of heat. Food is substrate, which food, you're talking about when food becomes scarce, that from the activation, or raises the activation energy barrier, which brings the reaction down. And so here we have the chemical potential of the system, of the person trying to leave the island. That gets into the fugacity you're talking about. When a person is forced out of the system, we can measure the chemical potential when he changes from one system to another. Say, for example, if a ship comes and saves him, and the people here, instead of thinking of force, we have exchange force. For example, when one person raises their eyebrow in disapproval of you, that sends out an exchange force and changes your behavior back. Here we have the symbol for the chemical bond. So Mirza is one of the first people to use human chemical bond theory. When you were talking about the dot between us yesterday, Libb, Thims plus Mirza big forms the dot, M sub B plus T sub L. So that's what's called chemical bond theory. That's a very advanced concept. But let's move forward into the book here. Into the so we talked about Raoult's law, Henry's law. That's very interesting. Mirza is one of the first people who have done down here. An individual in a society is guided by both positive and negative forces. His actions and emotions are governed by his desires and his fears. So Mirza, why don't you say, what is your opinion about the governing? This governing is very, in terms of physical chemistry, reactions between individuals and society are governed by the free energy change of the system. So here you say your actions are governed by, his actions and emotions are governed by his desires and fears. So what is your opinion about how desires and fears relate to Gibbs free energy? What is your opinion on that? What is your opinion? You say
desires and fears.
Yeah, in respect to a person's actions and emotions are governed by his desires and fears. So how do you relate that to the physical free energy?
Yes, the free energy is the driving force.
Mm-hmm.
The driving force, the driving force is positive in case it is trying to achieve a desire, and it will be negative if fear dominates on the mind.
Okay, that's good.
So
that's a good answer.
The emotions are just sort of reaction. The emotional energy is positive or negative.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be considered in terms of desire and fear.
Okay. That's a good question.
Positive and negative force constitute the initiating and sustaining force. This is important because they are the ones which motivate you think. Motivation or demotivation.
Mm-hmm.
They are concerned, you draw an equilibrium between motivation and demotivation and you enter into sustenance.
Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty good here. Say
because
the desire.
Sustenance because the positive is being weighed against negative.
So,
because
in your opinion, when a person achieves their desire, they're at a minimum position on the free energy curve. Is that right?
yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so from your last, so you said an individual in society is guided by both positive and negative forces. You say his actions and emotions are governed by his desires and fears. So I'm going to draw the graph here. You say it's at the minimum. Okay, so here we have
Put an activated complex there on top.
activated complex.
That's, yeah.
Here. So you say on page 24 that a person's actions and emotions are governed by his desires and fears. So let's say the person is you. This is B sub M, Mirza big, and your gives free energy initial state at some time of existence.
Can you put some meta-stable states in here? Over here, can you put some meta-stable states? That, yes.
Okay. So here we have, these are your metastable states.
This BM is having a desire. He wants to attain the desire. There will be reaction in his mind. It will take some time. If it culminates into a positive something,
give me an example of the
if it
example of a
culminates
desire.
into something, in that case it will go right here, and the desire will be okay.
Okay.
But if it does not culminate into a positive thinking, if it is negative thinking, in that case it will reverse and it will go down, and that the desire will not be attained.
Okay. So if there's too much negative thinking, it will go backwards. But if there's enough positive energy thinking, then it can get over first metastable complex, second metastable complex, and then go over the activation energy barrier and go down here.
Yeah.
So then
There is time lag.
okay.
He is still thinking.
Still thinking.
The
Yeah.
desire is still time, but he's having constraints. Is not attaining the desire.
Okay.
That desire, if he is harming his desire, then overcome the meta-stable state. Go to another.
So then, according to you, then the free energy change from here, right here.
Yeah.
This is the measure of the desire obtained.
The free energy change will be positive if the desire is attained.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
But if it is negative, it will go back.
Okay.
And if he is unable to desire, if he is unable to attain the desire, it will remain in the meta-stable state.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go a little forward then into the next quote.
Okay.
Farzan, you have any questions about the diagram?
Yes, I do, but probably it will be too late for you to actually answer. My question was purely from the human resource point of view. We call something readiness,
Readiness?
and though I see something in here from the readiness point of view, so you want to achieve something, but are you ready?
Yeah.
You need uplifting. Then you will be ready. Then there is an opportunity. If the opportunity comes, then you can achieve it. These are certain questions, but we can actually discuss it later.
I guess, well, just the question I would think about that is readiness potential. Sometimes a lot of people say that the getting up these hills are the collisions your parents put into you for education. So a lot of the times, if you have Mirza big is colliding, he's a particle here,
Yeah.
and then this is this parent.
Yeah.
This is another particle. They will collide with each other, and Mirza big will collide back, and the collision energy from the energy from the collision can push Mirza over get him higher, get him more ready. So it gets up to the collision between a parent here and Mirza colliding with each other. See, before he's age 15, he's colliding with his mother, colliding with his father. The collision between those things are getting him a closer readiness, forcing him to go higher in education, so that he's at a certain level where he can see the vision, get over the activation energy barrier. And that's what's called, because there's also kinetic factor, there's a thermodynamic factor, is whether or not the difference this lower final bonding stage is at a lower free energy than the initial stage, then we say it's thermodynamically feasible, but it also has to be kinetically feasible. So kinetic factors is when things collide together, when they have the right orientation, that determines whether or not they have enough kinetic energy of collision to get over this. So that maybe is what you're talking about with readiness.
Absolutely, I am. And there's one more thing. Can I take a picture of this?
Oh, sure.
I'll cover you guys too.
All right, let's go. Now we'll go to a little further. Go up to page 25. The property of great importance in the description of a solution is the vapor pressure. It's the component above. The partial vapor pressure of the component is related actually to its tendency to escape from the solution, and it has been used as a measure of the latter. The escaping tendency is called fugacity. The escaping tendency called fugacity is governed by physical conditions of solution. So, just to clarify, back before 1946, the Indian Muslims were highly fugacious. That's correct? They had high fugacity because they were forced to escape out of India, or because of the choices they had to take, whether to stay in India, they couldn't find their identity, or to leave to go to the newly formed Pakistan. So they had high fugacity.
So if a leader comes in and tells people that you need to get out of this situation, how do you explain it here? Then only, actually, this was our great leader, Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Jinnah actually told us that these two nations, the Hindu and the Muslims, cannot live together. So he gave a two-nation theory. It's a very famous theory.
This is Jinnah?
Jinnah, yes.
He is who is he?
He is he's the founder of Pakistan.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so he gave us the theory of two nations.
Yeah.
And this two-nation theory actually started this fugacity.
Oh, okay. All right.
That was the cause of fugacity.
You say Thims had been in the melting point. After the First World War.
Okay. What about this quote here? The escaping tendency is related to the activity, which is the ratio of fugacity to the fugacity in the standard state.
Yeah.
Okay, let me write this down here.
The standard state, what we will be concerned with will be the ideal state. Ideal state where you have no pressure on yourself. The pressure from outside and from inside is all the same.
Okay, so here you're saying escaping tendency is related to the activity. Okay. Can you switch chord for us?
Absolutely.
If you say fugacity, that means the escaping tendency of in a standard state versus the
Okay. So according to you, the escaping tendency is related to activity, which is the ratio of fugacity to the fugacity of the standard state. Can you explain a little bit about social activity in terms of this equation?
Yes. The activity or the fugacity existing at the time and the fugacity in the normal state. This is it.
So when the fugacity increases, let's
The
say
normal situation will be when F and F0. F upon F0 is 1.
okay, let's say normal fugacity equals 10, normal state. Now we have activity, and what year was the separation?
1947.
So the activity in 1947 in India, we'll say the fugacity actual is equal to, what value do you think it would be compared to 10? Higher or lower?
It will be much higher than 10.
So something like 100? Okay, so now we see that the activity in normal state is equal to
It had to be
1.
active.
So the activity in this state is equal to 10. So we see activity increased. And what is your interpretation of activity in terms of the molecules?
This would have been the state if it was all normal. If F and F0 were the same, in that case the situation was normal. That is the situation when the British had not occupied India. Then they started changing, things were settling down until the end of First World War. And that's where these people thought, both Indians, that means Muslims as well as Hindus, they thought that they had done so much for World War I and they have been left alone. Their efforts have not been considered. So they started the independence movement.
Okay.
That's where this F0.
Okay, this will give me something.
And F0 were not equal.
Yeah, this is good. When I get home, I'm going to do a little research on activity and I'll have a better idea of what you're saying here. The equation is good. So when I get home, I'm going to do a little research on activity.
The activity was productive. This activity was productive.
So now we're going to look at this example coming up here. If you could, I thought this was very funny, so I want you to explain it for me. You talk about this society was composed of the. So explain this part here, because I thought this was just hilarious to me when I first read it. The maximum activity was therefore achieved at the time, since the fugacity on the ordinary condition was the same as the ideal. When I first read this, I just laughed.
You know, I knew.
Well, can you explain some of these names? I don't understand these names. The Tabligh and.
I thought this was the best example that I could put in here at that time, at the time of my thinking.
Oh, okay.
You see, this was a normal society. The Quraysh, the people from Mecca migrated over to Medina.
Who is this? Who is Ansars? Who is that?
The Ansars.
Quraysh they were the elites of the whole Arab society. Quraysh. They were the caretakers of the Holy Kaaba before the Holy Kaaba, the cube, the cube in the desert. That was being kept by them, the Quraysh. Okay, so they took care of everything related to that sacred thing, and everybody flew in. So they were the elites. And these people, Ansars, these were the helping people. Ansar in Arabic means helpers. Okay. So these were the people who were helping these Quraysh when they migrated from their Meccan city. Some of them believed in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and these people were now public enemies. So these public enemies, when they Habashis, these are the blackies. Blackies, and these blackies were slaves.
And the cohesive force of Islam between the Quraysh, Ansars, or Habashis was the same.
Was the same.
Was the same. They all had the same cohesive force. They did the same bond together.
The faith.
Same faith.
Faith in God. Faith in God. Actually, see, if you read the last sermon of Prophet Muhammad, he says that nobody is above nobody. Everybody is equal.
So let me.
So he says that the only people who are above somewhere are the people whom Allah puts above anyone. So that's the standard, and these people, all of us in Islam, everybody is equal. So
the one thing that comes to mind when I hear that, it reminds me a little bit of when you were asking me yesterday about the career advancement. And how there's a lot of potential. But nobody wants to realize the potential. It brings to mind the similar example of how Karl Marx and developed socialism and communism, and how before that there was the Pareto pyramid,
Yeah.
and there were some people were above other people, so there was a distribution of wealth. But when then
Yeah.
the revolution happened, they
Yeah.
threw that out and said everybody's equal.
Absolutely.
And so that now you see in China, for example, there's lots of potential, but there's not a lot of people that don't want to realize it, because the good of the individualism is the quote I showed you. Individualism is erased from the socialism system, so there's no real. They don't see the visual to get over the activation energy barrier to find that higher, that realize the potential. So I see that a little bit it's kind of embedded in the Islamic culture, like it's embedded in China now in the socialist system they have, and that's why there's not a lot of.
But that's that's something to start with.
Mhm.
Like these people were made equal because there was a lot of inequality. People
Okay.
were these Habashis.
Yeah.
One of them is one of our favorite people of all time. His name is Bilal, and he was tortured near death.
Okay.
Okay, so these people could be handled like that. It was legal to be, harsh with these people. It was legal. So
Okay.
their legal system, social system was corrupted. And what Islam did was, it actually stabilized the legal and political and
Okay.
those systems. That's what it did.
Now let me explain what these terms mean. So it's when they went out of their camps for
Tabligh or jihad.
or jihad. So jihad is holy war.
Yeah.
It's for
Yeah.
fighting.
What does this word mean?
Tabligh.
Tabligh is good.
It is communicating your message, is the message of Islam to others.
Tabligh is missionary.
So when they went out to do these,
Balagha.
they were
in-
composed of all the representatives of all the clans, and no one was given a preference. So
Yeah.
on this, you say the maximum activity was therefore achieved at the time, since the fugacy under ordinary conditions was the same as the ideal case. I guess that's interesting to me. But
So you can you draw that?
You see,
yeah, we have to move earlier. It's only on page 26. We got 12. It's almost 1.
Yeah,
We're trying to get to page 69.
Yeah.
let me
Move forward.
explain.
Move forward.
Yeah. Once we get the video up, we can talk more, exchange emails about everything.
And you can always draw it at home.
Yeah. Okay, well, Bertha, why don't you say one more point before you move forward?
In terms of A and B, the forces between A and B were the same as C and D.
Okay.
And A and C and B and C, they are
the same forces, yeah.
independent species. The forces between these molecules, the intermolecular forces among these entities were the same.
Yeah. But I don't think that's one of the problems in social systems. Not all the forces are the same. So, for example, when the picture of you with the president, when he was giving your book to you and saying in front of the picture, the force, as him being the president, he had more force between everybody else. So it's just, he had more exchange force. So there's different levels. The bonds were between A, if he was A and you were B, and the governor was C. The bonds are not the same force.
You're right about that. That represents the meta-stable state.
Yeah.
This could be imaginary, this could also be imaginary. But this will be only for a temporary period.
Yeah.
That's why it is in the meta-stable state. It existed for some time. And each society has an ideal structure of the kind where A, B, BC, AC,
Let me give
and
you-
CD, they are all equal. This can only be achieved in a meta-stable state. That's why ideal society is non-existent, let me say.
Okay, now the problem with that theory about all that equal bond energy in the same, what you call you said the time of the Prophet, it was the ideal society, and everybody had this AB bond was the same as the CD bond. But in chemistry, as shown here, the bond energies are different by nature. So if you try to say that all humans are going to have the same bond energy, it doesn't work. So molecular nitrogen has a bond energy of 945 kilojoules per mole. Hydrogen cyanide has 890, and so on. So there's different bond energies for each species, and you can see the value, whether a thing has a triple bond, double bond, or single bond, or dipole interaction. So, and then when you get down to human bonds,
See the problem, and you're right.
yeah, it's not. The model you have is good. It give you a footway into the door, but there's different. So a human chemical bond is right here, which has been loosely estimated at 7.6 times 10 to the 8 kilojoules per bond. So if you say that all human bonds in the ideal society are the same, that doesn't match with what we actually measure in the laboratory. So, but it's a good stepping point.
Well, I'm prepared to agree with that.
Yeah.
One thing is because this represents a human interaction.
So, for example, let me give you an example.
Human interaction.
So, for the bond between you and your wife would be considered a triple bond. So, it would have 800 kilojoules per mole energy versus a bond with one of your sons or something, or your grandchildren, which might be a single bond or double bond, and have less kilojoules per mole. So, the A, B, and C bond would be different depending on who was bonded with. So, that's something to think about.
Yeah. I know what you're thinking.
Just
I
type
know what you are thinking.
bond energy,
Bond
comma
energy.
EOHT.info.
But this is a human bond.
Mhm.
This is not a chemical bond. This is not an ionic bond. This is not a covalent bond. It could be a covalent bond, perhaps if they had coalesced. It cannot be an ionic bond because that will be separated. The two entities will be separated. One will have a negative charge and the other will have a positive charge. So that cannot be, the human bond cannot be a ionic bond. In a social system, it cannot be an ionic bond.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question then. So, in your opinion, in the ideal society, if there was just you, me, and Faizan, and you were A, I was B, Faizan was C, in the ideal society, we would each have the same bond energy. That's what you believe? The ideal solution?
The bond energy between you and me and him, and you and him, we are supposing in an ideal situation, they will be equal. But it is not going to be equal.
So
And it will be sometimes
he's
it will
simply
be
saying that
ionic,
it's not
other
existent.
times it will be covalent.
Okay.
And all of those things can happen.
All right.
This is a utopian thing.
Utopian ideal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. I see. That gives me a little bit. Okay. Let's move to the.
Yeah. So near ideal can be achieved, but ideal cannot be.
Yeah.
So let me tell
The
you
maximum
a little.
activity was therefore achieved.
I'll take 30 seconds and put things in perspective.
Uh-huh.
When you say that these people, the companions of Prophet, they were having an equal bond, they also had what you say the command levels.
Mhm.
There were people who were given charge for some things. There were people who were common ordinary people.
Okay.
There were people who trusted more. There were people who were trusted, but not to that extent. That's it.
Okay. Let's go. Can you explain what this?
Sabagram mein darja
What does
bata raha.
Bangladesh mean? You said one Bengali could not be distinguished from the other in the achievement of their goal, which was
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. What does this mean?
Bangladesh is a country. It was separated
Oh,
from
Bangladesh,
Pakistan.
the country. Oh.
Yeah, it was separated from Pakistan. They achieved separation. They're making progress. 29.
29. Okay, so 29, you say, the two nations were created due to pressures of the above kind. What are your units for pressures here? Force per unit area?
pressure was
the
the covalent bond or whatever bond was needed could not be formed, and that there was always a tendency to separate out, segregation. People were like the Bengalis. They were getting they had a separate identity. They could not be mixed into West Pakistan. They had, and these people also could not mix in there. So the Bengalis were foreigners here, and the people in West Pakistan were foreigners. So there was no compatibility among the two wings.
Okay.
Same is the case with the Hindus and Muslims. That's why there had to be segregation.
Let's take a look at page 30 here. You say-
Segregation will always be there
Okay.
when one is unable to mix with the other.
Okay.
When
That was
one entity is not absorbed by the majority, there will be segregation.
okay. Let's look at this quote here. The 46% non-participative members of the society in East Pakistan did not have motivation or the vapor pressure, as it is true of traditional societies, to come off their set pattern of life and have low fugacity. So can you explain this in
This is important for me because it is not just the question of Pakistan. It's the question everywhere. There are two forces in a molecule. There are protons, there are electrons, and there are neutrons. Neutrons are always there. Neutrons play can play any part, but the main role is they are supposed to remain neutral. In this case, these 46% were the neutral ones.
neutrons?
Or if at all they had anything, they do not want to express their opinion. Since that was the majority, the choice between East Pakistan and West Pakistan was, in East Pakistan, was for the 54% people.
Okay.
So 54 was divided into, let's say, 23 and 27. And that's what happened. That the 27 lost, the 24 lost because the 46% did not participate.
Okay, let's take a look at this equation here. On page 31, we have the fugacity section. You say the escape tendency, escape would have been...
No, just let me. It's not the question of East Pakistan and West Pakistan now. It's also the question in the same position in the United States. Sometimes it is the Democrats who are winning, and sometimes the people are the same. But there is a small but a significant majority, significant proportion of people who do not vote. Right? In no case, except in the communist countries, there are people who are supposed to vote 100%, but no.
Yeah, but that's not the question I was asking, but I wanted you to explain it in terms of low fugacity and vapor pressure. I don't know, that's the question I was confused. Explain what you're talking about in terms of low fugacity and vapor pressure.
Who has low fugacity?
Yeah.
Traditional society to come off the traditional societies are neutral people.
So in this situation, who has the low fugacity? The East Pakistanis, the West Pakistanis?
They are neutral people, and neutrons do not have any fugacity.
But how about in
It's a
terms of...
part of the system. Neutrons are a part of the system,
Yeah.
but they don't play. They do not want to play a major role. The neutrons do not play a major role.
Okay. Well, let's go to the next equation here. So down here we're talking about the escape of an individual from a society as well as his migration to and absorption from a different society can be related to the vapor pressure of a solution. So the reverse of vaporization is condensation, as shown in equation 2.1. So if you have a liquid society and we add heat, then we have a reversible vaporization condensation reaction, and these are the evaporates. And
This is important for me.
it's what?
This is important for me
Why?
because the liquid gets evaporated, and the vapor is there. It has the vaporization is balanced. Heat of vaporization, latent heat of vaporization is the same as latent